Welcome again to United in Purpose, where Ken Bostrom and I have the Ken Bostrom Ministries. Our mandate is to preach the word, reach the lost, teach the found, and preach the word. Today I'm going to teach you the word a little bit in regards to the updates of the signs in the heavens. A lot of people in the Christian community are a little afraid of getting into any signs in the heavens because they feel it's of the devil, because all they're familiar with is astrology. Astrology is basically astrology is a study how the sun and the moon and the stars supposedly relate to our life and events on this earth. It tells them who to marry, if they're going to get a job, what to do, stay in the house, don't leave the house, kind of thing. And they really are living by the signs in the heavens. That's not the way that God intended it. God intended that the signs in the heavens would lead us to Him and teach us about Him and help us to align with prophetic timing. And on the first show with aligning with prophetic timing, I went into the signs in the heavens of 2017 and the ones that are in 2018. We just had the third of the supermoons, and I want to bring a prophetic update on that. But I first of all, I want to tell you that the heavenlies are not of the devil. The devil never created anything. The devil never, all he can do is lie and pervert, steal, kill, and destroy. That's his job, and he's good at it. And but as far as the stars, God named and numbered them all. Isaiah 40:26 says, "Look up into the heavens. Who created all the stars? He brings them out one after another, calling each one by name. And he counts them to see that none are lost or have swayed away." Now, that's a New Living Testament of Isaiah 40:26. God named every single one of them. He named every single one of them because all the heavens declare the glory of the God. All the heavens tell of the majesty of Jesus' first coming, the redeemed, the church, his second coming. Psalms 147:4 says he counts and numbers the stars. He calls them all by name. The difference between astrology and astronomy is a study of the stars. It's just a scientific study of the stars, and NASA does a great job of it. Biblical astronomy is taking that science in the heavenlies, in this heavenly pattern, and relating it to things that are happening on the earth. You know, where the Word of God says, on earth as it is in heaven, many things, you see something happen in the heavenly, and then you watch. Back in the Bible times, when they had men on the wall, watchmen on the wall, they weren't just watching for enemy to come. They were watching the signs in the heavens. They would be recording if there was something extremely unusual in the heavenlies. They would record that, and then if they would also record things that are happening on the earth. And in a few minutes, I'm going to have some of those signs like that. But I want to say about astrology. Remember, that's witchcraft. Now, 3 different people that used astrology, and it worked against them. Prior to Gulf War, Saddam Hussein is said to have consulted his astrologers and have advised them to go to war because the stars said that he would be victorious. Wow. Just like King Ahab, he was led into error. The second one, the minor feast of the Purim, falls on a full moon. Wicked Haman used astronomical forecasting lottery to pick a day when the Jews would be destroyed. That worked against him. The fifth one is Hitler was famous for using astrologers to plan his attacks. And guess what? That worked against him. Now, biblical astronomy is a study of the signs, the stars, a planet, and objects. So the Word of God says that the the sun, moon, and stars were going to, one of the first things he said was they're going to be for signs. So God is the original billboard, and if a billboard is there, it's for us to read and to understand. God doesn't want us to be ignorant. I have a blog site, bostrom2.com, and in 2011, there was 3 eclipses in 30 days. That's like never heard of. But it covered 5 days, because the first one was a midnight solar eclipse. And it went from one day after midnight, and it went backwards across the date line. And it was, how can a solar eclipse be at midnight? Because it was way, way in the north where they were having 24 hours of daylight. And so it's a very interesting thing. But on that month when I was blogging, on June 15th, 2011, I had 1,722 hits in one day. It was so much fun watching my blog just being hit, and people clicking it and bringing it to their own website. And so people want to know about the signs in the heavens, and God doesn't want us to be ignorant, right? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going just a review of the signs in the heavens. So the review of the supermoon triad. Triad is 3 things back to back right in a row. And so there was 3 supermoons right in a row. Now the first one was December 2nd, depending on where you are on midnight. You know, some people saw it on the 2nd, some people on the 3rd after midnight. But what was important about this supermoon, people just looked at it as a supermoon, not really understanding that there was going to be a triad, because there never is 3 supermoons in a row. It's pretty extremely unusual. But what was interesting about this is I see it was a tipping point. A prophetic ends start tumbling, just like you would have dominoes. You stack up dominoes one right after another, and you hit one, and then all of a sudden things start falling really fast. And this was the kind of tipping point that this supermoon pointed to. Now, this preceded December 2nd. It was preceded by the 70th anniversary of the United Nations partition plan, where they partitioned, dividing the Holy Land to give Israel and the Jews that were coming from the Holocaust, to give them their own land, basically to give them their own land back. And so that was in 11/29/2017. That was 70th anniversary. The very next day, 11/30/2017, the United Nations voted, 151 countries voted to disavow Israel any part of Jerusalem. Isn't that interesting? The same United Nations. And on the 2nd, on December 2nd, they in the new cave 12 of the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found in Qumran, they found a scroll that was totally intact, and that scroll was Psalms 81 through 85, which absolutely lays down the plan of the whole Arab Confederacy, especially Psalms 83. And then it talks about the temple. It talks about the Temple Mount. It talks about the temple. And so that was found intact on the very same day that they had that huge supermoon right over Israel. Is that a sign? I believe it's a sign. What this supermoon really points to was Jerusalem and starting the tipping point of things happening like dominoes. Because that Wednesday, that was on Sunday, the supermoon, that Wednesday, President Donald Trump, President of the United States, Donald Trump, recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And immediately things started happening. The United Nations was irate, nations were irate. Some nations lined up with the sheep to move their embassy too. He said, Donald Trump said, we're going to be moving our Israel. That had been in the works for 22 years, and every single president had just put it aside. and said, we can't do it right now, for 22 years. And so, it's also following it's following the 50th anniversary of Jerusalem coming back into the hands of God's people. That's a jubilee. So this happening in the time of a 70th anniversary of the United Nations giving Israel their land back, and the 50th anniversary, those numbers in the Bible, if you look at them, extremely prophetic. And what happened really, what happened with this is there were more plans that were done to bring the Temple Mount back again. The second one here was on January 1st, 2018, and that's the next supermoon. Now this was a New Year's moon, but it was called by the Native Indians, it's been called the wolf moon. Why did they call it the wolf moon? Because wolves would howl at this new moon. It's the coldest time of the year. The wolves couldn't find a meat. They're sitting there howling at the moon in packs. Now, one thing, a couple of things interesting I want to point out about wolves. Wolves travel in packs. Basically, there's not too many lone wolves that you'll see. If you see one, there's others around. They live and hunt in groups, and they feast on flesh. You'll not see wolves that are sitting eating grass like sheep do. Wolves are after flesh. Well, what was interesting about this January 1st, 2008, if you were watching MSNBC or CNN or something like that, they were all talking about the new book that was coming out 2 days later. It was in every single headline. It was called Fire and Fury, and it was by Michael Wolff. And see how that is connected? That's connected there again. And here, you remember I said wolves eat flesh. They don't care about how they tear down a person's reputation or people's trust. They actually are after the character, they're after the flesh. And these absolutely will travel in packs to the point where the Grammy Awards the other day, they're reading there from Fire and Fury about, from this book from Michael Wolff. And you know, this wolf moon, this was the largest of the triad of moons and of supermoons. And here it lined up with something that was happening here on Earth. The next one was a super blue blood moon. Now this one, people didn't really know. I had people just, 2 days ago emailing me, Mary, did you know there's going to be a super blue blood moon? I said, have you watched my program? Because I've been talking about it. Have you read my blog? Because I've been talking about it. And this was called, some of them called it was a triple threat moon. This has not happened since 1866. 1866. Now, the next super blue blood moon is going to be in 2037. Some people call me a senior. And so I don't really plan on being here in 2037. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Come Lord Jesus is what I say. And so this has had to do with that. Now, I want to read you some historical things that have happened. Some historical things that have happened. The only eclipse that is recorded by Josephus, who is a historian, the most quoted historian from Bible times, is during the death of King Herod. And so when we see, when he recorded when the death of King Herod was, we know exactly how to back up where Jesus was, because Jesus was a lad by that time. September 27, 14 AD, during the death of Caesar Augustus. These are happenings that are linked with eclipses. April 3rd, 33 AD, the possible time of the crucifixion. March 4th, 71 AD, the plowing of Jerusalem with salt by the Romans. I do want to say, some people say that when Jesus was hanging on the cross and everything went dark, that was not a solar eclipse. A solar eclipse probably is 5 minutes long. And when it was dark, when Jesus was crucified, it was hours. Now, and number two, there's no way possible it could have been solar eclipse, because a solar eclipse can only happen on the beginning or the end of a Jewish calendar. A blood moon happens on the middle of a Jewish calendar. So that's why we can just debunk that whole theory. Another one is January 28th, 632 AD. This was a solar eclipse that was visible over Medina, Arabia. And this is when Muhammad, the founder of Islam, died. And there's many different things that can connect with solar eclipses. Remember, on earth as it is in heaven, things happen in the heavenly. God always will give signs. There was a sign before Moses. There was signs in the heavens before the flood. There was signs in the heavens before Abraham was born. NASA can go back and link all these together. I want to show you, yesterday morning, Ken and I wanted to watch the super blue blood moon. Now, why is it called, Ken came out there and he looked at it, he said, it doesn't look blue at all to me. And I said, it's not actually blue, it's an idiom. The blue is an idiom. It's like once in a blue moon. That means there was 2 full moons in 1 month. Now, it was super. It was the 3rd supermoon because it was closer to the earth. It was in perigee. And it was, so it was a supermoon. It was a blue moon because it was the 2nd full moon in 1 month. And it was a blood moon because it was a total solar eclipse. And we came out of our house, and I was going to get into the car and drive somewhere where I could see it because I knew it was going to be way in the west. And when I came out at 6 o'clock in the morning to start the car, it was sitting on top of our neighbor's house, and it was huge. It was, we didn't have to leave our front yard. It was 45 degrees, so we did get into our car and put on the seat warmers and watch it from our car. But we watch it, and I have an app on my iPhone, and it's called Skyview app. And I want to show you the picture I took of the supermoon. The supermoon, it was huge. It was absolutely huge. And it was in the sign of Cancer. The Cancer in biblical astronomy, it's called the crab. Now, I want to show you 2 different books that I highly recommend. Is Signs in the Heavens by Marilyn Hickey. That is still available. This is the book I found when I said, "You're kidding. The signs in the heavens are of God." Now, that was like when is this book? I'm trying to think of when. I don't think it has a year. Yes, it does. 1984, she wrote this. So I know it was in the late, probably 1995 or something, that I picked this up. I said, "You're kidding. Those signs in the heavens are of God," because I didn't want to have anything to do with the signs in the heavens. And from this simple book, and then the next book I really love is Witness of the Stars by E.W. Bullinger. Now this, I don't think there's any more copyright of this, because you can go online and you can read the PDFs and download the PDFs of his book. And so you can get yourself familiar with the signs in the heavens. But let's talk about Cancer the crab. In the signs in the heavens, the story of Jesus, all the constellations tell a part of the story of Jesus. It's like this chapter, well, this is a chapter in the book of heaven. One thing about the crab is its claws hold tight and secure. You can see the moon there. The moon is a reflection of the sun. Just like the church is a reflection of Jesus Christ. We have no light in ourselves. He gives us the light. He gives us a revelation. He gives us a power. He gives us the wisdom. Everything that we have comes from him. And in the heavenlies, it means Messiah's redeemed possessions are held fast, and he's holding tight to the church. I don't know about you, but that gives me great comfort. Another thing about the crab, it's a waterborne animal, reminding us that the fish is a symbol of the church, which is born of the water of the Spirit. Crabs live in two elements. They can live in land and they can live in water. And we can be seated in heavenly positions far above all principality, power, and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but that which is to come. So we can be in that position, and we can be living here on the earth at the same time, just like a crab. Our home is heaven, but we're ambassadors here on this earth. They have many legs. A crab can represent the members of the body of Christ. The crab has a shell to enlarge and get a new shell. See, they cast off their shell every once in a while. And we need to constantly be shedding the shells of tradition and doctrines of men and grow from glory to glory. And so every once in a while, we just put on a new shell. Amen? Amen. And so, but one thing that's very interesting is how this fell on a holy day on the Hebrew calendar. Now, in Leviticus 19, 23 through 25, on a fruit tree, the first 3 years are forbidden. You cannot touch the fruit on that tree. That tree, it just drops off, whatever it does. You can't touch it. And the fourth year, the fruit goes to the temple. That's the way God set it up. And the fifth year, you get to enjoy the fruit. Now, aren't we like trees that are planted by the rivers of water, who bring forth fruit in its season, whose leaf will never wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper? That's Psalms 1, in case you're wondering. We're likened to trees. And sometimes when people get born again, they try to shoot them into the ministry right away. No, they need to grow their fruit. They need to save their fruit, and then they need to give everything to the Lord, and then they go out and share their fruit. People need to just mature and be disciples in the things of God. And so this is likening to that. But one interesting thing is, why did they pick to be Shabbat? It's a new year of trees. They have 4 new years in the Jewish calendar. And 2 means the 15th of the month of Shabbat. 2/15, it means 15 month of Shabbat. And so how did they pick that? Well, this is an interesting thing. And I got this from Astronomy Israel. I get an email from Astronomy Israel. They always have something that'll connect you to the signs in the heavens. And they said that this year was picked as a birthday of the trees. Now, it's kind of interesting because it's the cold of winter. Why are you going to celebrate the fruit on the trees? The reason they picked it is it's halfway between a winter solstice of December 21st and a spring equinox of March 20th. So half of the winter is behind on that day, and we start looking forward to the spring. So did you know that our Groundhog's Day is tied to be Shabbat? See, it comes from the German understanding of celebrating to be Shabbat, and it links them with looking forward to the spring. So here, I want to show you another exciting thing that happened. Is when I was taking a picture of that, all of a sudden I looked up another way, and we had the beautiful sky, and I saw some bright lights in heaven. I thought, what is this? And I pointed my camera at it, and here it was, the the sign in the heaven of Libra, which is the scales. Not only that, but we have the planet Jupiter sitting right on top of balancing the scales. Now, Jupiter means righteousness. I see balance coming into this earth. I see things starting to shift back into righteousness. And this planet, God named this planet. It's one of the wandering planets. And he named it Zedek, which means righteousness. And so see here, right here, we see that the scales are being tipped and aligning to God's righteousness. And at the bottom of the scales, we see the planet of war, which is called Mars. It's been called the planet of wars since the time of Rome. But the interesting thing about this is as I prayed about it more yesterday morning, the more excited I got, because I remembered Chuck Pierce had given an incredible prophecy in Washington, D.C. And it was about 10 months ago, almost about 9 months ago, he gave that prophecy in Washington, D.C. You can read it on Elijah List. You can go to Charisma Magazine and read it. But it has, it's Pastor Ramiro Pena is on the Jim Baker Show, and he's sharing. He was there when Chuck Pierce of Glory of Zion International gave that prophecy. And Chuck prophesied that they were going to have 10 months of struggle in the White House, and struggle and difficulty, and even war, struggle in the White House or at the White House, followed by 3 years of great success and progress. You know what this sign in the heaven showed me? It showed me that we are coming to the end of the struggle. It seems like since President Trump has been in office, he has been fought against, he has been lied against, there has been struggle and continual war since then. Now, I want to go over the blood moon. The next blood moon is going to be July 27th, and in July I'll be talking more about this. And it's going to come. It's going to be the first central eclipse since 7/15/11. It'll be the longest total lunar eclipse in the 21st century, lasting 103 minutes. That's an hour and a half. And so, but it's going to follow Tisha B'Av, which is the most dreaded day on the Jewish calendar. So we're excited about that. We're excited about what God is doing. I'm excited about our country. I'm not fearful about the country. I think we're heading into the greatest time ever in history. And what I want to see is a great awakening to God. I want to see the intercessors awaken and start declaring the Word of God and calling forth the Word of God. And I want to see people just saved and delivered. I want to see household salvations come forth in this year. So let me bless you. May the Lord bless you. The Lord will bless you. The Lord wants to bless you. The Lord wants to keep you. The Lord wants to make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord wants to lift up his countenance, and he will lift up his countenance upon you, and he will give you his peace, that peace that passes understanding, that peace that the world does not know. You can be in the midst of everything else, but you have his peace coming upon you, and you are sheltered. You are in the secret place of Most High. God bless you from Bostrom Ministries. See you next time.